الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهد له فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه أما بعد يا معشر المسلمين. As we want to, بإذن تعالى, bring about some benefit, inshallah ta'ala, as we want to mention a portion of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the biography of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, just a small portion of it, inshallah ta'ala, or maybe, and then perhaps, inshallah, in the near future, we can speak about the life of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullahu ta'ala. So we're going to take a portion from his biography, and this portion that we want to mention, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala, is his devoutness and his piety. So that this will give us some encouragement. This will give us the drive and the eagerness to be like the people of the past, to be like our Salaf, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. So Ahmad ibn Hanbal was renowned for his piety, for he devoted his whole life to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he devoted his whole entire life to Allah Jalla wa Ala, night and day. His silence and his speech, his time at home, and the time he spent on the road. He was seldom seen except fasting, standing at night in prayer, reciting the book of Allah Jalla wa Ala, seeking knowledge, sitting, teaching the people, or migrating in Allah's cause. His food was little and his sleep was short. His silence were long and his preservation in Allah's cause was great. These were the noble characteristics of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullahu ta'ala. So that which we want to point out from this is his long silence, his long period of silence, and his preservation in Allah's cause was very great. It was azim. And it says that which we need to do, that we need to be quiet more than we speak. We need to be quiet for a long period of time, unless the speech that we are going to utter has some benefit with it. Naam ya ibadullah. Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullahu ta'ala, he used to mention Allah in times of places where none would mention him except those whose hearts are filled with love and remembrance of Allah, and from whose hearts he is never absent from. And those whose hearts and souls are filled with love and remembrance of Allah. Naam. So it is mentioned about him, rahimahullahu ta'ala. His son, Salih, he said, my father would not let anyone draw the water for his ablution but himself. And if the bucket came out full, he would say all praise and thanks be to Allah. He would praise Allah Jalla wa Ala. And it is mentioned, I said, oh my father, meaning Salih, he mentions to his father, rahimahullahu ta'ala. He said, what is the benefit in this? He said, oh my son, have you not heard Allah Jalla wa Ala, the powerful? He said, say, O Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, tell me if all your water were to be sunk away, who then can supply you with flowing water? So he mentions the narrations reported concerning the devoutness of Imam Ahmad rahimahullahu ta'ala. It is confirmed that his whole day was devoted to worshiping Allah Jalla wa Ala. So we want to give this glimpse at this Imam, at his akhlaq, at his ibadat, at his morals and manners, and his devoutness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. that he spent his whole day and night in servitude to Allah Jalla wa Ala, devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, worshiping Allah Jalla wa Ala. Regarding this, his son Ibn Abdullah, or Ibn Salih Ibn Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he mentions his son Abdullah ibn Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He said, my father used to offer 300 rak'ah of prayer every day and night. Then when he became ill due to those beatings which had weakened him, he would offer 150 rak'ah every day and night. And he was almost 80 years of age. He also used to recite 7 sections of the Quran each day, and he would complete the recitation every 7 days. And he would also complete the recitation of the Quran in 7 nights, as he did during the day. And sometimes he will offer the Isha prayer and then have a light sleep, after which he would stand up to offer the night prayer and supplicate into the morning. So even after him being tortured and beaten, even then he still was devoted to worshiping, to revising, to reciting, to devoting himself to Allah Jalla wa Ala. Even after the beating and the torturing, he reduced it to what he reduced it to. But it still was something that was azim, that which was great. So Ja'far ibn Abi Hashim, he reported, I heard Ahmad ibn Hanbal saying, I completed the recitation of the Quran in one day, and I counted the places in which patience is mentioned, and they were more than 90. It is upon the Muslim, the abd, the slave, to be patient, to learn how to be patient. Look at the Salaf, rahimahumullahu ta'ala, that which they had to endure, that which they was inflicted with, that which came upon them. So the reports of his patience, his perseverance in worship, and his consistency in prayer, his fasting and reciting the Quran are numerous. Among them is the story related by Ibrahim ibn Hani, the story of Ibrahim ibn Hani of the time when when Abu Abdullah hid from the Sultan, and he hid in his house, after which he said, I have not seen anyone more abstemious. I have not seen anyone more abstemious, more devout in worship, nor anyone who exerted himself more in Allah's cause than Abu Abdullah Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He would fast during the day, and he would hasten to break his fast. Then he would perform a number of rak'ahs after Isha. Then he would have a light sleep, after which he would get up and purify himself, and he would continue praying until Fajr time, then would offer a witr prayer of 1 rak'ah. This was his custom. This was that which he was accustomed to. Ya ibadallah, Aina nahnu, where are we from this affair? From the affairs and the akhlaq, the adab of the salaf, ya ayyuhal ikhwa. Then he would offer the witr prayer of 1 rak'ah. This was his custom, that which he was accustomed to. So we should get in the habit of doing many forms of ibadat. This was his custom throughout the time he remained with me. I did not see him slacken for a single night, and I was unable to keep up with him in worship, and I did not see him fail to fast except one day, when he did not fast in order to have the hijama performed on him. Subhanallah. These were the attributes of the Salaf. These were the attributes of the Salaf as-Salih, of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullahu ta'ala. When Ahmad, rahimahullahu ta'ala, he grew old, it was as if he was racing against time, and he increased in his worship. All of his words and deeds said, I am preparing for the journey to the hereafter, in order to increase my provisions for a long trip. Ismail ibn Abdullah al-Ajali, Ismail ibn Abdullah al-Ajali, rahimahullah ta'ala, he related the saying, I came to Abu Abdullah for the last time, and he came out and sat in the hallway, and I said, oh Abu Abdullah, I used to see you holding back from certain things in Islamic jurisprudence. Do you have some saying regarding them? He replied, oh Abu Nadr, this is the time for endeavor, this is the time for action. And he continued in this vein until he stood up. His son Abdullah, He said, I saw my father when he became old and becoming more assiduous and reciting the Quran and increasing the number of prayers. He would perform between the Dhuhr and Asr. He would perform the prayers between Dhuhr and Asr prayers. And whenever I entered in his presence, he would stop praying, and then sometimes he would speak, and sometimes he would remain silent. And if I observed that his silence, this is the sifat of the Salaf, of being silent and quiet for a long period of time. But you find many of us speaking too much. So I would withdraw, and he would continue his prayers. And I also observed him quietly reciting the Quran. This does not mean that he was remiss in his worship until he felt that he had little time left in this world. On the contrary, worship and piety were his habits from the time of his youth. Ibrahim ibn Shamas, he said, I knew Ahmad ibn Hanbal when he was a young boy, and he used to spend the nights in the prayer. So Ahmad's whole life, from his earliest years until he departed this life, was devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His ubudiyyah lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. His worship, his servitude was to Allah Jalla wa ala. His silence, his piety, his standing up at night, his fasting, all of this was for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Naam ya ibadullah. So, and also from the affairs of Zuhud, the affairs of asceticism of Imam Ahmad rahimahullahu ta'ala. Imam Ahmad, his asceticism, known as the word Zuhud. It is known as the word Zuhud, means to abstain with one's heart from the life of this world, and it is the pinnacle of every act of worship. So thereby the heart is emptied of the distractions of this worldly life. The heart is empty of the distractions of this worldly life. هذا يعني معنى الزهد. This is the meaning of al-zuhud, is that the person, that his heart is free from the life of this world. And it is the pinnacle of every act of worship. So it is mentioned about him, rahimahullahu ta'ala, that the heart is empty of the distractions of this worldly life. That his heart, it was emptied from the distractions of this worldly life. From many of the distractions we are distracted with. Subhanallah. But them, the Salaf, their devotion, their steadfastness was none other. There was no comparison. Unlike you and I, with many distractions, with many things that cause us to be distracted, with many of us not being focused, with many of us not being steadfast. So it is mentioned, rahimahullahu ta'ala, that it is mentioned, Allah alone is the honored and the revered. He is the honored and the revered one. He becomes independent of all created things. And he finds pleasure in the unexpected and does not dwell on the affairs of this earthly life. هذا حال الإمام أحمد ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala. So from the affairs of Zuhud is of two types. Abstaining from that which is forbidden and that is obligatory. Abstaining from that which is forbidden and that is obligatory. And abstaining from that which is permissible and that is a virtue. So we have two types of Zuhud. Two types of Zuhud. Number one of them, it is to abstain from that which is impermissible and that is obligatory. And the other one is to stay away from that which is permissible and that is a virtue. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala described Zuhud as follows. He mentions rahimahullah, it is for a person not to be happy when the pleasures of the life of this world comes to him, and not to be sad when it departs from him. And he was asked about a man who has 1,000 dinars with him, can he be an ascetic, yani a zahid? He replied, yes, on the condition that he does not become happy if it increases, and he does not become sad if it decreases. Naam ya ibadullah. So Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah ta'ala, he wrote a book on asceticism. He wrote a book on Zuhud, the like of which has not previously or since been seen, as it is mentioned. Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah, was renowned for his asceticism. Indeed, he was a model of asceticism. He was a model of Zuhud. He was a model of being a zahid, ya ayyuhan nas. And abstinence from the pleasures of this world, and his soul was averse to its adornments and its deceptive fineries. This asceticism was apparent in his food, his drink, his accommodation, and his lectures. So we see from here that his zuhud was also seen in his madha. It was also seen in his food. That nowadays, you know, when we like to eat all of the expensive foods, we like to go out to the places where they have all of the expensive foods. Well, Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah ta'ala, his asceticism was seen in his food. And also it was seen in his drink, his accommodation, and his lectures. Allahu Akbar. So it is mentioned, Abu Dawood, he said, rahimahullah ta'ala, in the latter lectures of Imam Ahmad, nothing was mentioned pertaining to the life of this world. And I never saw Imam Ahmad mention the life of this world. And because of the life of this world held no value to him. Indeed, it was in his eyes a barrier between him and the bliss of paradise. He was happy when his hand held nothing of it. Rather, he was happy when his hand held nothing in it. Or rather, na'am. Or nothing being held in his hands. So his son, Salih, rahimahullahu ta'ala, he said, my father said to me one day, if I have not even a small coin, I am happy. If I don't have a small coin, I'm still happy. With us today, if we don't have $1, if we don't have this and have that, we are sad. If we don't have from the things of this world, we are saddened by that. We're saddened by that which we don't have. Ali ibn al-Madini, he said, I entered the house of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and his home was exactly as the home of Suwaid ibn Ghafala was described with regards to its simplicity and humbleness. The asceticism of Ahmad, rahimahullah ta'ala, was genuine, flowing from his sincere desire for that which is with Allah Jalla wa Ala. Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah ta'ala, only wanted that which was with Allah Jalla wa Ala. He didn't want anything from this world. As I just mentioned, when Imam Ahmad didn't have a coin or anything, he was still happy. Imam Ahmad. When we don't have anything, when we don't have $1, a dime, or any of that, we are sad. We are sad because we don't have the things of this world. Well, the people of the past, our Salaf as-Salih, they were happy with nothing. They were pleased with nothing, ya ayyuhal ikhwa. Imam Ahmad, rahimahullahu ta'ala. So, it is mentioned that Imam Ahmad, his asceticism, his abstinence, rahimahullahu ta'ala, was flowing from sincere desire for that which is with Allah Jalla wa Ala. He wanted to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't care about the luxury things of this dunya. He didn't care about money. He didn't care about any of these things. He wanted to meet his Lord Jalla wa Ala. Naam ya ibadullah. So it is mentioned that which is with Allah. A profound understanding of the life of this world. He had an understanding of the life of this world. Of his brevity and his limited pleasures. He had understanding of the passing enjoyments, the temporary pleasure of the life of this world, and his brevity and his limited pleasures. So Ahmad, rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam Ahmad, was not forced to live in an abstemious life due to unavoidable poverty. On the contrary, the life of this world sought him, and he fled from it. The life of this world came to Imam Ahmad, and he didn't want it. So asceticism was a form of worship in his eyes, and a philosophy of life. Nasr ibn Ali, he said the position of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala, his position in the hereafter would be better. Because the life of this world came to him and he rejected it. Ahmed, he bore poverty with patience for 70 years. Millions knocked at his door with the objective of turning him from a poor man into the richest of men. But he refused. When Ibrahim ibn Mata Samarqandi, he asked Abu Muhammad Abdullah ibn Abdurrahman about Ahmad ibn Hanbal and whether he was an imam. So which he replied, yes, by Allah, surely Ahmad patiently bore poverty for 70 years. Just as Ahmad refused to embrace the life of this world and to have any fondness for it, his dislike for it, family also. His dislike for his family also, to have any love for it. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullahu ta'ala. So his son Salih, he said sometimes we would buy something and we would hide it from him so that he would not see it and rebuke us for it. Allahu Akbar. So his son Salih, rahimahullahu ta'ala, he would, buy some things, some things of this world, some things that is likable, but he wouldn't let his father see it, for fear that he may rebuke him for it. So one day Imam Ahmad, rahimahullahu ta'ala, he entered the house of his son Salih, after Salih had changed the ceiling of his house, decorated it with red and green material. When he observed that, he called him and he reminded him of the narration of Al-Hasan, in which he said of Al-Ahnaf ibn Qais returned from a journey and found that they had changed the ceiling of his house. And they said to him, do you not see the ceiling of your home, the ceiling of your house? He would reply, my apologies to you. I did not see it. I will not enter until you change it. Subhanallah. So his son Abdullah, he said, I was sitting with my father one day, and he looked at my feet and he saw that they were smooth without cracks. And so he said, what are these feet? Why do you not walk barefoot so that your feet become rough? He, rahimahullahu ta'ala, used to advise his friends to be abstemious in this life, in the life of this world, because his days are numbered and his pleasures will fade away. On one occasion, he advised Shujja ibn Makhlad al-Attar. He's saying, Oh Abu Fadli, oh Abu Fadl, it is food without food and clothing without clothing. And the days of this life are but few. He disliked to meet with those who presented the life of this world in a favorable light to him, and attempted to induce him to partake of his delight. On one occasion, Ahmed ibn Isa al-Misri entered his presence, accompanied by a people who were speaking about the army. And Ahmed ibn Isa, he said to him, what is the reason for this sadness? Oh, Abu Abdullah, Islam is a true religion. It is tolerant. It is forbearing. It is a spacious house. So Imam Ahmed was lying down. He looked at them. And when they had gone out, he said, look at these people. I do not want any of them to enter my presence. I don't want to be around any of these people. I don't want to be around any of these individuals who are into the dunya. I don't want to hear anything as it relates to the dunya. This was Imam Ahmed rahimahullahu ta'ala. Whereas us, we are happy when money is being mentioned to us. We're happy when someone says, yo, they got this car for sale, this kind of car is like this is that. We're happy when the dunya is mentioned to us. But Imam Ahmed rahimahullahu ta'ala, he didn't want these people around him. He said, look at these people. I do not want any of them to enter my presence. So this was not surprising in a man who said, my happiest day is one on which I awake and I have nothing. My happiest day is the day that I wake up and I have nothing. Subhanallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. So this is a little portion that we want to mention about Imam Ahmed rahimahullahu ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us like our salaf, how they abstained from the life of this world, how they didn't want anything to do with the life of this world, how they didn't want an individual or